20% chance we see something here in Midland, Odessa, but it's 30 to 50% chance for areas like Colorado City and Snyder. And then all of these storms will push off to the east as we go throughout the daytime today. So level 1 risk, this includes Ozona and Snyder and Colorado City. But when we zoom out and look at Texas as a whole, you see the avocado shape, and the level 3 enhanced risk does include North Texas for today. So severe weather over there, not looking at anything severe here. The recent showers we had, if you call them showers, barely rain showers. Critical fire danger is in place for today, and you can see that here everywhere in red. Critical everywhere in that tan color is elevated, and combined that covers all of West Texas. Therefore, we've got a red flag warning that goes into effect for every county here in West Texas and southeast New Mexico. That goes into effect at noon today. 53 in Midland, 56 in Big Spring. So mild start today, still warm compared to the average low of 48 degrees, but we are warming up. 58 by noon, 66 at 3 o'clock. Not a big warm up like what we saw yesterday, but still a warm up nonetheless. 69 degrees is the high temperature today. I'm talking really cold. If you're on social media, you might have seen some things about some snowfall. I'm not going to say that yet. Here's what we can say right now. It likely will be quite cold on Thursday, maybe not even above freezing. Wintry precip is possible, but we cannot say yet that it will snow anywhere in or near West Texas. It's simply too far out. We cannot say it yet. Also, do not always believe what you see on social media. There is some agreement with the models, yes, but it's 100 hours away. So if you want some good information, follow all of the meteorologists here at Storm Tracker 9 and the National Weather Service Midland for the very latest and accurate info. But the other thing we're looking at today is future track, because there could be some thunderstorms that pop up later this afternoon. So 2 o'clock, we see maybe a few showers out there, maybe some very weak thunderstorms. But once we get closer to the 5-6 o'clock hour, some isolated thunderstorms across the basin are possible before those kind of sputter out by 9 p.m. tonight. So not looking at anything severe and nothing that's going to dump a lot of rain to bust our drought, but we could hear some rumbles of thunder later this afternoon here in West Texas. There's a fire weather watch. This runs from 6 a.m. tomorrow morning until 10 p.m. tomorrow night. So some fire safety tips: avoid any open flames. Outdoor grilling is discouraged. Don't use anything that might spark, including chains. If you're towing anything, make sure those are tied up securely so they don't cause sparks on those roadways. And even your vehicle can start fires. Catalytic converters can reach temps of about 1,000 degrees. So clear any debris from under your vehicle before you drive, and don't park on dry vegetation if you can help it. Let's talk a little rain chance though. So we're going to jump a little bit towards next week. You'll see right now dry air sitting over West Texas. All the moist air is over in the other half of the state. That continues that way for the weekend. Again, you can see that dry line with all the moist air in front of it. But starting on Monday, we have some flow that's going to push some of that moisture into West Texas, and it's going to stay here pretty much through all the next week except for Wednesday. Dry air is going to return to West Texas, but Thursday and Friday that moist air gets pushed back here. That's good news. That means we're going to have some rain chances next week. Not necessarily great, up to about 30% on Tuesday, but that keeps ticking up just a little bit, so we'll keep an eye on it. Scattered storms is the forecast right now on Tuesday, but we also have a 20% chance for next Friday, Jolena. And so the goal of the James Webb Space Telescope for engineers as we go through the next few months will be pinpointing each of these dots and aligning them so that they align with each of the 18 mirrors, so that instead of seeing all these dots, they come into focus and you see just one dot, which would be the star or stars that you're looking at in the sky. So instead of seeing all these, you'll see just one point, and that happens once all the mirrors are aligned. And those will continue to move into the basin as we go through the morning hours. This is 10 o'clock tomorrow. You'll see the low pressure as it's scooting in. We're seeing the showers stay in front of it. Plenty of cloud cover as well. By lunchtime, still seeing showers, especially now in the northern basin between Midland and Lubbock, and then starting to work their way back down a little bit as this low pressure moves out. So we're really looking at an off and on rain chance all day tomorrow.
And something that we are all looking forward to, Brendan, is the Rockhounds home opener tomorrow. We're also excited because we're all going to be there for sunrise. But how is the weather going to look like for first pitch?
It's going to be warm, it's going to be windy, but nonetheless, it is going to be good baseball weather.
Good.
83 degrees is what it looks like for first pitch, Jolena. With those winds, though, importantly, out of the southwest at 20 to 25 miles per hour, might make it a little bit difficult to put the ball over the fence, but it doesn't matter because we're going to go watch some baseball here in Midland tomorrow, and it's going to be awesome.
It's just more than baseball. You know, it's a bad idea to go to the store and shop on an empty stomach, but it's a good idea to show up to the ballpark on an empty stomach. Check it out.
Now, Colorado State University, not somewhere you might expect to be one of the leaders in hurricane research, has released their seasonal outlook. And like last year, it predicts an above average season. The CSU forecast calls for 19 named storms, so tropical storm or hurricane, and of those, 9 will become a hurricane, and 4 of those hurricanes will be a major storm, a Category 3 or greater. Yeah, it wasn't exactly hail. It's similar, but not quite. It's known as graupel, and here's a picture that came from Odessa last night. It has a similar look to hail, but it forms a little bit differently. So what happens is in the top of thunderstorms, we have snowflakes, and these snowflakes fall through supercooled water droplets, and these supercooled water droplets are 32 degrees or less. That's why they're super cool. But what happens is once it falls through, that water starts to stick to the snowflake and accrete or accumulate, which is called a riming process. And eventually that falls out of the sky as graupel, G-R-A-U-P-E-L. That's how you spell it. And if you try to type it into your phone, your spell check will say it's wrong, but it's not, I promise you. It's also known as soft hail, and it can look like Dippin' Dots or even packing pellets. Storm Tracker 9 meteorologist Brendan Mincheff here with a severe weather update for you. 2 different tornado warnings to tell you about. One of them just passing off to the northeast of Sanderson is headed out. It's off to the east. Sanderson, you're no longer in a tornado warning polygon associated with this storm, which has had a history of producing some tornadoes. However, there is a tornado warning just to the south of Sanderson right now. Officially, it's not in the warning polygon, but because of how close it is, I would go ahead and take your tornado precautions if you are in Sanderson. We've got those winds now. Fire danger back up yet again. So again, Sunday, Monday, but then dropping Tuesday and Wednesday. So that's the good news. So we got a couple days of fire danger that we got to get through. We got to be smart with, and then that fire danger risk goes away for a little bit. Here's why those winds are picking back up. We got this low pressure system that's moving in from the west. And as this deepens, as the low moves closer into Texas, you can see the winds whipping around that system are going to increase the winds at the surface as well. So for Monday, those winds continue to increase, but by the time we get to Tuesday, winds die down just a little bit and temperatures drop quite a bit. So here's your wind gust tracker for tomorrow. This is at lunchtime. You see gusts about 40 to 45 miles per hour. A little bit less in the afternoon, maybe closer to 35, but then continuing overnight at about 30 mile per hour gusts, and into Monday we see yet again.
They're like, hey, something's happening.
And something was happening. The Army leased a large chunk of land from the University of Texas and built Pyote Army Air Base, which became affectionately known as Rattlesnake Bomber Base thanks to, well, all the rattlesnakes out there. Initially, the base was used to train airmen on B-17 bombers, the Allies' main bomber in Europe. But war necessitates innovation, and just 2 years later, the B-29 arrived, and this would help the Allies in the Pacific Theater.
Yeah, Tatum, that's right. And it went at a top speed of 0.8 miles per hour. But NASA's new moon rocket took its first trip to the launch pad. And although this doesn't seem like a big deal, this is the biggest step yet towards actual flight, which is slated for May of this year. The Space Launch System, or the SLS, with an Orion crew capsule atop it, rolled out to the launch pad 39B at Cape Canaveral yesterday evening, and it arrived there early this morning. The rocket is scheduled to undergo what is known as a wet dress rehearsal over the next few weeks. This involves engineers filling the rocket with fuel and conducting tests while at the pad before then unloading the fuel as part of the test as well. The rocket will then be rolled back into the vehicle assembly building to get prepared for an uncrewed launch around the moon no earlier than May of this year. Now, the SLS, this rocket is the biggest and most powerful one ever built, and it's designed to return Americans to the moon for the first time since Apollo 17 landed on the moon in 1972. And excitingly, Tatum, we are one giant leap closer to the lunar surface.
In a normally dry and desolate stretch of desert, now sits a little oasis.
It's fun. I mean, we were just hanging out for a little bit, playing volleyball, you know, just hanging out with the kids. Really like any outing to a regular lake. It's kind of nice too because it's not deep though, you know what I mean? It's a nice little shallow. So it's not, you don't have that risk of like, oh, you know, the kid's going out too far.
People came from all corners of West Texas to experience the new lake for themselves. Much of the lake is on private property. However, the water from the edge of the highway to the property line is fair game. Upon receiving the coronavirus vaccine, the mRNA, carried in what's known as a lipid nanoparticle, enters some of your healthy muscle cells. Once the spike protein mRNA enters a cell, it is read by a ribosome, which is part of your cells that reads all mRNA and tells the rest of the cell how to make it. After reading the mRNA, the cell immediately begins to break it down and get rid of it. I guess that's the thing about time. The community center was rebuilt. In fact, they're getting ready for another preschool graduation. Even though so much time has passed, the community still bears the scars of the 1987 tornado, on both the concrete foundation where the community center once stood and on the hearts of those who still call Saragossa home. The lives lost will never be forgotten, their names etched into stone memorials and into the memory of a community forever changed. Though years have passed, time has marched on. In Saragossa, Texas, there is a constant reminder of how life can change in an instant. And of course, the nagging question: how do you move on?